So, hello and welcome to Random IT Guy, and the huge question on how to improve my performance a little bit. I know in the last few days we heard a couple of reports from certain players about issues with game files, corruptions, and lagging, tearing, frame drops, all kinds of things. And I would love to go to a few more details here to explain you all what is it, why is it, how come, all those questions that you might have in your mind while looking at your settings screen. And even though it's not all in your settings that you can improve, what can I improve? So that is kind of the subject of this video today. So if you new to this channel, then I would obviously appreciate a like, and if you have any questions, I'm there for you as well. Leave some questions in the comments if you wanted to, or direct message me. You know usually where to find me in Discord. I will leave some informations out there later on as well. So let's start. What is it? The most pressing question to start with is actually happening outside of your box. So what I call it, when I say box, I don't mean your chest, but I mean your PC. Okay. Should I use Wi-Fi? Should I use a network cable? What's the difference? Why is it? How is it? Okay. So in gaming terms, there should be really no question as such. Should I go for Wi-Fi or network? Network cable is always the better option, just as it is shielded. You don't have any package loss, meaning that you're dropping packages because other Wi-Fi signals might collide with yours and cause loss of actual information, which causes lags, for example. I know there are some certain situations where you just can't lay the old gray network cable out there, but bear in mind that nowadays you can get flat cables that fit behind skirting boards and behind I don't know, underneath carpets. You can also go for options if you have your own house, for example. Go for the option to lay a cable outside. If you are allowed to drill holes, there are some certain options to get this done. The reason for that is something I would like to share with you here. I just transition here for a moment. Oh yeah, I'm still in this game. Okay, so down here by the clock, you have usually your network indicator, either Wi-Fi or the little network indicator here for the network port. You just click on open network, and internet settings is for both the same. Okay, that gets you to this screen here. And this is not even though a very relevant screen for you. It just shows you that you're connected to the outside world. The setting that we're looking for today is here, view hardware and connection properties. Okay, this is the relevant screen. So it tells you first of all what kind of network card you have. If you ever had the question, what network card do I have, where do I get drivers and things like that, this is a good starting point. You see also the maximum transmission unit, which is here set in my case to 1500. Back in the day, maybe 15 years ago or so, it was very trendy to reduce this a little bit to 1492 and decrements by 8 bits. So that reduces the package size itself. So that means that you have a faster transmission overall. This is a setting that you can do in your router. Okay, this is not something that you can do here, influence from the outside. Even so, I've seen some guides some time ago how you can do that here on the network port. But the essential part is that your router is set in that way. So if you have an issue with dragging, tearing, kind of lagging, rubber banding and stuff, give it a try, set it to 1492 and see how it goes. Might still be a handy thing in some certain circumstances. Not all networks are the same, not all internet providers are the same. You still have copper cable. We are going to get here in my small little town fiberglass at some point later this year. And all those things can have an influence on how large your packages can be. Okay. The more important setting in here is the megabits per second. This gives you an idea on what you're on right now as we speak. Okay, even though my network card can do 2500. Okay, GBE versus Mbps. Yeah, it's 2500 versus 1000. Okay, so This is just down to the fact that my router downstairs can only provide 1,000 as a maximum, okay? If you get one of those routers from Vodafone or whatever, you might only see 100 here, okay? Which is probably still enough, because in most cases the internet that goes with that might be, I don't know, 50 down and 14 up, something like that. But in more modern environments, you want to check if actually if you have already glass fiber and you might get 5,000, then 1,000 is obviously not enough. Okay, so this gives you a good idea also in Wi-Fi. If you see something like 144 or 360 something here, and you know your card can do 1,000, then you know there's probably an issue where the router is located. Okay, I've seen that often, that people would put their routers, I don't know, in some really awkward places like hot presses or underneath your shoe rack, for example, hiding it somewhere. This is a network tower, basically, if you use Wi-Fi. If you have no other choice than to use Wi-Fi. I know a friend of mine in Germany has no other way. He's not allowed to drill holes or put anything like that. But then you know, basically, that your output from the router is maybe affected by some walls or some other metallic objects, for example, that are kind of close by. Okay, so you want to just make sure in the screen of what you're actually getting. Okay, and is that what it's supposed to be? Is it less? Perhaps you should have more here. In my case, I had laid a cable all the way from my router, which is far away from me, with 2 switches, which can do 1,000. So at least my connection from up here down to the router is very fast, even so I might not get 1,000 out of that down there in my box, let's say. Okay, but at least I save a couple of milliseconds from my office down, you know, to the router. So that can make already a difference. If you can carve off a few milliseconds, that might give you a longer chance of survival in SCUM. Okay, you might be just that moment faster, and you might just see your opponent a little bit faster than, you know. So this is one thing. Bear in mind that you can get those flat cables, you know, check what is your Wi-Fi actually doing, get a network cable instead. There is no question of why that is. Nowadays in modern environments, we have lots of people with phones that are hooking up to your Wi-Fi. You might have neighbors who get the same internet provider, and then they are on the same channel in Wi-Fi as you are. And all those things can cause package loss. Okay, package loss is causing lags. Okay, so you might lose frames basically when you lose packages, because what happens is if some signals collide, the package is dropped, and then the header and footer of that entire signal range is requesting the package that was lost back to the router. The router has to fetch it again from the server and get it back to your machine in the end. Okay, so this is why you might have lags. Okay, so get away from Wi-Fi if you can. There are some good Wi-Fi cards out there, yes, but it will never compare to a network cable that is shielded. It doesn't matter so much if it's Cat 5 or Cat 6. Cat 6 is mostly, or Cat 6E for example, is mostly for outdoor purposes. Cat 5 will still do fine, you know, as long as it is shielded. Okay, that's a very important message. So if you then look into the inside of your computer, there's a little video that I had prepared here. That is not my own video, it's actually from a great crowdsource. Let me see if I can actually put this in here. Stop this and just start this. This is the question of why is it so important to use an NVMe drive on your C drive. What is the difference between an SSD and an M.2 drive? All those things are explained in this video here, okay?
Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about M.2 non-volatile memory express solid-state drives, or SSDs. Now these drives are relatively new and have only been around for a few years now. And just like regular 2.5-inch SSDs that we're more familiar with, M.2 SSDs also use flash memory for data storage, and they are very fast. But the difference between a regular 2.5-inch SSD and an M.2 SSD is that the M.2 is a totally different form factor, and it connects to a different type of slot. The M.2, which was formerly known as the next generation form factor, is a standard that's used for mounting expansion cards internally. Now, SSDs have dramatically passed mechanical hard drives as far as speed. And this is because SSDs have no moving parts, because they use flash memory for data storage, as compared to mechanical hard drives that use rotating magnetic disks to store data. But in recent years, SSDs have gotten faster and are more capable of moving data at a faster rate. So in order to unlock the full capability of SSDs, engineers needed a new technology to unlock the faster speeds of SSDs. And that's where M.2 and NVM Express come in. Now, prior to M.2 and NVM Express, the latest interface standard that was widely used for hard drives and SSDs was SATA 3.0. And the standard that was used for an interface for software to communicate with SATA was the Advanced Host Controller Interface, which is better known as AHCI. Now, AHCI was developed primarily for mechanical hard drives. It wasn't made or optimized for SSDs, and that's mainly because it dates back to 2004. So it was creating a bottleneck for today's SSDs. The SATA 3.0 bus with AHCI allows data transfer speeds at a theoretical rate of 600 megabytes per second, which is pretty fast. However, M.2 NVM Express SSDs do not use the SATA bus. They instead use the PCI Express bus, which is much faster than SATA. So by using the PCI Express bus with an optimized protocol like NVM Express, these allow SSDs to transfer data at a rate of 3 gigabytes per second, which is extremely fast. So M.2 SSDs with NVM Express is roughly 5 times faster than SATA and AHCI. Now this speed will vary depending upon what motherboard you are using and which SSD, but regardless, it's still a lot faster than SATA SSDs. NVMe, or Non-Volatile Memory Express, is a communications protocol specifically developed for SSDs. It basically reduces the CPU overhead and streamlines operations, which lowers latency and increases input and output operations per second. Or in other words, it's fast. NVM Express was developed to fully take advantage of the capability of PCI Express storage devices and to perform many of the input-output operations in parallel, meaning that many calculations are done at the same time. A large job is broken down into several smaller jobs that can be processed independently. Now this is very similar to how a multi-core CPU works with multiple threads, where the CPU cores work independently of each other to perform certain tasks. Another advantage that NVM Express has over AHCI is what's called the command queue. The command queue is a queue for enabling the delay of a command to be executed. So in a nutshell, as commands are sent to a storage drive, it gets into a line or queue. Then as each command is finished executing by the drive, it goes to the next command in the queue. Now AHCI allows one queue with up to 32 commands in the queue, but NVM Express allows 64,000 queues, and with each queue capable of 64,000 commands. So in theory, if you were to max out NVM Express, you can fulfill a staggering 4,096,000,000 commands. The M.2 SSD connects to the motherboard in the M.2 slot. It just slides into the spring-loaded slot and then tightened down with a single screw. And that's pretty much it. There's no other connections to be made. So there's no connection cable or separate power cable. So it's just like an expansion card. Now, not all motherboards are going to have an M.2 slot, because like I said before, this is a relatively new technology that's only been around for a few years. So if you want to use an M.2 NVM Express SSD, you need to be sure that your motherboard supports it. You have to make sure that it has an M.2 slot and that it can support NVMe Express technology. It's also important to note that not all M.2 SSDs have NVMe Express technology or use the PCI Express bus, because some M.2s use the SATA bus, which is a lot slower. In fact, there is no speed advantage between an M.2 SATA SSD and a standard 2.5-inch SSD. So before you go out and purchase a new motherboard and SSD, you need to be sure. And I also have a link in the description of this video below of an M.2 SSD that I recommend and have purchased.
So it is a little bit of an older video. We have meanwhile reached speeds of 7,000 and even more. But good to note is if you play, for example, from a laptop and you haven't really spent a lot of money on the laptop, then in most cases it might come with an M.2 drive, but it has an SSD format, basically an SSD chip instead of an NVMe chip. Okay, it's very important to understand that there's a difference. Okay, there might be a form factor, which is kind of the same layout, and then you can see it from the notches, basically. Okay, NVMe has only one notch on one side and not two. Okay, so this is a little hint on what it actually is you're dealing with. So, in a nutshell, if you play games like Valheim, for example, you might still fit this on a normal SSD and 2.5-inch format. It doesn't need a lot of throughput as such, with the style of the game, if you like. But if you're playing something like SCUM, then you wanna have it on an NVMe drive. There is no question about it, because you need max performance. This is cutting edge technology. You wanna be really also using the right hardware with it. Okay. So this is essential. So thanks goes out here to PowerCert Animated Videos. He's doing a lot of videos. He's going also into things like cores and what is the whole story. Great guy to watch. Very easy to explain, to understand as well. He explains it in a certain way that I really enjoy. And if you've ever contemplated Microsoft Certificated Service Engineer, MCSE, then this is a must watch. Okay, so so let's just go back to this. I just have to go out of this. I had to record this video, unfortunately, a couple of times because I got the same issue as earlier, Raykit. I forgot to unmute myself, and then So just to another point that I would like to make. We're already at 17 minutes there. Just to hurry this up a little bit, if you start SCUM, okay, you will be confronted with a certain question. Okay, here we go. So it will ask you if you use DirectX 11 or 12. Okay, so and to explain this a little bit, nowadays and on a modern computer, unless it's a potato from, let's say, 10 years ago, there's absolutely no question about what you want to do here. Okay, DirectX 12 is the way to go. Okay, Vulkan is a bit more for high-end AMD cards. Is it really fully working yet? I have to say, in some cases yes, in some cases no. It depends also on the rest of your setup, mainboard, what RAM you use. All those things play a role. So it isn't always as easy to identify why in your case it's actually screen tearing. Okay, the only thing you can do then is choose the right option to begin with, and that is DirectX 12. The difference between 11 and 12 is that it actually makes use of all your cores. Back in the day, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, you would have CPUs with 1 or 2 cores. Some would have 4, Core 2 Quad, for example, and very few, like the AMD Phenom at the time, had 6. And then games were not ready for this yet, and they would just utilize 1 or 2 cores out of those 6. Okay, so DirectX 12 will make sure that all your cores are used at the same time, which helps out your graphics card a lot. Okay, so it's very important that you choose DirectX 12 and then deal with the settings afterwards in SCUM. Okay, so this is a baseline. Okay, this is no more a question, should I or should I not use it? This is a must. Okay, go for it. So unless you have obviously this old potato with maybe, I don't know, 8th gen Intel or something like that, or even older than that, 7th gen or something like that, 7940 Core i3 or something like that, then you might still use DirectX 11. But all modern graphics card do support DirectX 12. There is no question of is my card compatible. If you bought it in the last 3 years, then yes, it is most definitely compatible. Okay. So, and then it's a matter of the settings. Okay. So this is my character, by the way. If you find me, leave me alone. Okay. No, just saying. First we start off with video. Here you can choose basically what resolution your monitor can do. You have to understand what graphics card you have purchased, okay? Unless it's a 4090, where it doesn't matter because we all know it's a 4K ready card. I use an RX 6600, which is kind of a mid-range, beginning mid-range card kind of. But it is capable of 1440p gaming. Not poo, but P. And then it's all down to your monitor. Okay, so the question was 1080p monitor with 60 hertz compared to a 1440p monitor with 144 hertz or 175 hertz. It's a difference like day and night. Okay, the 1440p gives you just more density. The immersiveness of the game is affected by how many, if you have 1K or 2K or 4K. So get the right monitor, guys. Okay. It might feel a little bit weird if you play it in the wrong kind of setting, on a larger monitor. And then also understand, is my card actually a 1080p card? If you use 3060, 4060, those cards are 1080p cards. They can run 2K, but with reductions, so you might have to kind of go a bit lower than high. Okay, depends. And if you have, let's say, a 4070 or a 6800 from AMD, then it's a 2K card, and you can set easily 2K on it. You can get a few frames out if you change the field of view, obviously. It depends on how large the image is. How much foliage you see. If you're in a forest, for example, then obviously you have more trees. That all has an impact. Okay, so you can change the field of view a little bit, play around with it. In graphics itself, you can go to high. In my case, I can reach anywhere between 50 frames. Here, there's a lot of things happening. The tree is moving, the character is moving. There are lots of things going on. Even so, it's a still more or less still image. But you have the snow falling, all those things. So in this case, I get 52 frames on 2K. All right. In the game itself, it's anywhere between 50 and 100. If I'm looking at a wall, for example, if I'm in my little secret corner in a cave, for example, then you might get different frames. Okay. So then FSR, DLSS is a big question. Okay. I've chosen here for my setup FSR in balanced. Okay. That took me a while. Other settings might cause screen tear. That depends on your system again, what motherboard, which, all those different combinations might cause you to set it slightly different here. Okay, this is not something where I can say you have to get this motherboard and this RAM. It's about what you have and what you have to set. So spend a bit of time here, see if you can change FSR. What is FSR, DLSS? It's basically a way of upscaling an image from let's say 1080p to 4K or 2K, and that helps your GPU, your graphics card a little bit, kind of, because it doesn't have to render the 4K image on its own, but it is a little bit faster with machine learning to kind of blow it up into a larger image. Upscaling, that's what you call this. And to find the right balance for yourself is a bit of fiddling around with it. Okay, for me, I'm mostly set high. You can tweak it a little bit with foliage, maybe lower, or do you really need motion blur, for example? All those things can be set. So what I can say here is basically just spend a bit of time, sit down. I know time is at the essence these days. I just have to get out of here. Let me get out of here. Spend a bit of time and choose the right settings. Okay. And if you have any questions, I'm always happy to help. You can either post questions in the comments section here. If you liked it, you can also leave a comment. And I would be very happy if you would follow the channel, because there will be more content in the next few days. Just after streaming, beginning to stream again after many, many years. I usually spend my days building computers for customers, for offices, businesses, and gamers. I do that already in my own shop for the last 10 years. And then another 10 years, I've been technical mentor, second level tech support guy in VMware, IBM, Unisys, TomTom, all the major IT companies around Europe. So I know my stuff. And just to debunk this a little bit here, was the purpose of this video. Okay, so I say thanks for watching. We have reached the 25-minute mark. It's already outside the frame, but hey, if you find me out there on SCUM on Rakit server, don't kill me, no.